Hello, good morning, everyone. Welcome to a group dragon invocation on the Feast of the Magdalene. So I'm here wearing my red to honor her, and I'm going to actually start by reading a few passages out of the Sophia Code. When I was on my hike this morning, I was listening to this chapter on Mary Magdalene, because when I pulled my daily cards for the day, I pulled some cards. I pulled the Hermit card specifically, and I was called like, oh yeah, Mary Magdalene was essentially a hermit for most of her life until she became Jesus's wife. So I'm going to tell you some history about Mary Magdalene that maybe you're not aware of. I'm going to talk about how when we hermit, how the Hermit card is really not like a bad card to get. Like, it's okay to hermit up and to be cloistered, in your own space. And then we're going to talk a little bit about Inanna, and we're going to talk about Saint Sarah, and we're going to do a dragon invocation. So hopefully I can get all this done in less than 30 minutes. So everyone pray for good internet connection. So, Feast of Magdalene. So who's Mary Magdalene? If you have never heard of Mary Magdalene before, then let me ring some bells for you. When Jesus died, the person who figured out that his tomb had been opened was Mary Magdalene, right? Like that's the only bit that everyone like really remembers about her, is for some reason she was the one, not Joseph, not Mother Mary, not someone else, but she was the one who went to go visit Jesus's tomb that day on the third day and found that his tomb had been opened and that his body was no longer there because he had resurrected. So what we don't realize, for anyone who's just like stopped there, like, oh, okay, that's who it is the traditions, the old Jewish traditions, the person that would go to the tomb 3 days later was always the closest living relative. So that means if his mom didn't go, it would have been his wife, right? So you've probably heard of, the famous Tom Hanks movie, The Da Vinci Code, which was it was a book that was written first, and then the movie came out talking about the Order of the Magdalene and this secret Gnostic Christian, old Bibles and old stories that were taken out so that the patriarchy could absolutely not give any power to any women ever. So Mary Magdalene, see, she's all in red. Mary Magdalene, today is her feast day. So 7/22 is the feast day of Magdalene, which is also the first day of Leo season, and she mentored a lot with Sekhmet. So if you remember 2 days ago, on Monday, on the new moon, we talked about Lilith and Sekhmet and Kali Ma. Well, Mary Magdalene mentored a whole hell of a lot with Sekhmet, Kali Ma, and Inanna, which honestly are all like could also all be Lilith if you like went all the way back. Like their story, all of those stories of transformation, they're all this goddess of heaven and earth, goddess of love and hate, or love and war, goddess of abundant, like it's this transformation, right? This goddess of transformation is really, really comes down to. So why would I talk about a hermit when it comes to Mary Magdalene? When you read the Sophia Code, which I highly, highly, highly suggest every single person who wants to know more about dragons read this book. It's a channeled text. I always suggest that you read it as well as listen to it on audio, because there's parts that are like italicized for you to actually read along with. So in the chapter about Mary Magdalene, it talks about her upbringing and how she was raised in a very wealthy home, and yet she was pretty confined to her home. It was her mother who was the wealthy one. It was all of her mother's money and her grandmother's money, and then her father, who obviously, what do I always say about men who are with really powerful women? They tend to be in the background, but they know how to hold the space, right? So Mary Magdalene's dad would take her to go journey and do travels, so in Tibet and in Egypt and in Cyprus and all those areas to go to different mystery schools. But that would be like the only time she would leave, was when she would go do mystery school trainings, when she would be able to see other oracles, oracular children her age. So it'd be like all of our star-seeded children being able to go off to like boarding school, like going to Hogwarts sort of stuff. When you hear mystery school, I always just think Hogwarts. But they were everywhere. There's the mystery school of Hermes. There's the mystery school of Isis. There's the mystery school of the Tara of Tibetan Buddhisms, right? So it's mystery school, as in it's a mystery to all the regular people, all the average people, and you would have to go off. Like I was talking about yesterday, how a lot of us in past lives went off and became nuns or monks or whatever, off away from the rest of civilization. So Mary Magdalene would, when she was in Palestine, was in her own little compound, had her own gardens, had a good chunk of land, would spend most of her time in meditation. So her name in the Sophia Code cosmology is actually She of 1,000 Angels. So she is the true embodiment of being a living angel on earth, having that really high level of connection to angels and light beings and dragons and fairies and mermaids, and still living in a human body and still being able to hold the resonance of a human body, and not, what I've been referring to as a supernova situation where only the good die young and your nervous system overloads. So I'm going to read a couple passages here now that you've got the little bit of backstory. So essentially, when she turned of age, she was no longer required to stay cloistered in her gardens, and her mother and her father gave her the option to either get married, as one would do back in Palestinian ancient Palestine, or go and do more trainings at the Mount Carmel Mystery School, which is what she opted for. And she went, and that's where she trained with Mother Mary, and Mother Mary taught her the ways of the Rose, of Kuan Yin, of the Way, the Beauty Way, the Dragon's Path, as I call it, and helping Mary Magdalene with her rage issues. She's got a little bit of rage issues, this Mary Magdalene, very fiery one, right? Leo season begins, and it's her feast day. So you can only assume that Mary Magdalene really is like the full-on embodiment of a Leo. Okay, that passion, that drive, that pride and that anger too. So let's read. I have a couple of different things I want to read to you, so I just want to make sure that I find them all. Okay. So the first one. The many angels that I would engage with in meditation would often share that I had come to shine a great diamond light into the hearts of many suffering people. So remember, on Monday we were talking about Archangel Gabriel and his cosmic diamond, that ascension technology, also your diamond light body or your dragon light body. The diamond, multifaceted, multidimensional rays that come from the cosmic diamond of Archangel Gabriel. Mary Magdalene was She of 1,000 Angels, so she also embodied that spiritual technology within her DNA. Okay. My heart, so this is Mary Magdalene speaking, okay? My heart would ache as I would witness the brutal suffering of many of my people were surviving, both from the Roman occupation as well from the self-righteous pharisees of our own people's ruling class. There would be many times that I would physically feel my throat close up as I empathetically felt yet another woman being raped and beaten or even killed. It would enrage me behind my cloistered walls. Sorry, it's like I chose the wrong color to highlight. It's in dark blue instead of like a lighter one for it's easier to read. So she could feel, so for those of you who are empaths, she was behind these cloistered walls and yet could still feel the suffering of women outside of her walls that back in the days of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, it's hard for us to comprehend, but if you looked at a man sideways wrong and you were a woman, he had grounds to stone you to death right there and then. Like, no judge, no jury, no nothing. A woman did something wrong and he could say, okay, everyone grab a stone and just throw it, and literally, like, or he could just rape her in the middle of the street and no one would bat an eye because she must have deserved it. That's the sort of, like, really suppressed shit that Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary were having to survive through and still be, you know, leaders in that time. So it continues. My heart would continually take refuge in my ancient practices with Sekhmet, Kali Ma, Inanna, and wrathful aspects of green Tara, to cast out the darkness and invoke clearings, healings, and reconciliation for those I prayed for. So she was really good at embodying that idea of service under grace, where you can, being an empath. A lot of my clients are empaths, okay? I am an empath. I have all the stories about being an empath, and I know how hard it is to process that, especially right now. So let's talk about that just for like 1 second. Right now, there is a ton of rage, okay? So today, while you're looking through your news feed and all of that, you're gonna see a bunch of posts about Mary Magdalene and the holy rage, okay? The holy rage being that fire that gets in your belly and in your throat, that I gotta do something, right? You see any of the things that are going on in our world, and that part of you that just gets so mad, that's just so angry, that such evil and disgusting shadowy shit exists, that part of you needs to be honored somehow. Trying to stuff it down is the reason why we blow up, why we turn into chandelier people or champagne people. You know, that whole like shooting to the top, like you shake a champagne bottle and the lid blows off, or chandelier referring to like in medical speak, like if you come in with a broken arm and the doctor like tests you, oh no, I'm fine, it's not a bit, that would be like a chandelier reaction, where like you were fine until they pushed on a certain spot and then you jumped super high. So when we do that within ourselves, right, it's usually that stuffing down of our emotions, specifically anger, specifically frustration, specifically rage, and then it's just that one thing. Your kid knocks over the syrup bottle all over the floor you just mopped, or your husband wants to have sex with you when you just like really, really, really don't want to, or any of those other things that cause us to just like jump and be rageful. There is a healthy way, which I mostly teach my clients how to do controlled temper tantrums for this, where we turn into dragons and use dragon fire breath to breathe through it. But you can use the analogy of a lioness. That happens a lot. Yeah, it happens a lot, Christina, because we, especially women, we're like, don't be a bitch. Oh, you must be PMSing. Oh, blah, 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 blah. So we get told to shove it down, and men get told the same thing. You're not supposed to show emotions. You need to be a tough guy. And then the tough guy attitude turns into an abusive attitude, actually. But that's because we have taught the boys how to be controlling and how to use that control to manipulate power, because they're not supposed to show their emotions. So we're literally creating this abuse cycle by not allowing the biofeedback loop of our emotions to play out the way that they're supposed to play out, which is why I tell you that true self-mastery is mastery of your emotions, using the raw materials of your emotions to transmute them and alchemize them and turn them into magic. Turn the poison of your anger, right? That old saying, holding on to anger is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. That's why you need to use holy rage, why you need to have alchemical processes that use that biofeedback loop within you to make different choices, so that you can say that you're a pleasurable parent and not a pissed off one, right? Okay. Let us continue. I want to see if I want to talk about Inanna for a second. I think not yet. So she goes on in this chapter to talk about how she would often meditate in the astral plane and to deal with her holy rage, take on Sekhmet, like embody Sekhmet, and would go through the astral plane at night or in meditations and find the women who had been traumatized, and in the astral plane beat off the attacker, just rip his jugular out, and then lick the wounds away from the victim and help clear a lot of that trauma that was happening. Because again, beatings, rapings, stonings, killings, totally okay in the Roman Empire. We gotta remember that. I know it sounds insane to us now, but like, put yourself into this timeline when you're hearing this. So the same way that instead of getting super vocally angry about the Black Lives Matter situation, I was able to talk about it, but I was mostly going through and doing a lot of meditative work, doing my own work and processing how I felt about the situation, doing what I needed to clear it, so I wasn't saying things out of blind rage, right? Blind rage, what does that mean? Because you can't see the truth, your third eye and the truth and the sword of truth from Michael, all of that gets gummed up when you're working with blind rage. You have to have focused rage. Focused rage is beautiful. Focused rage is what any actual movement worth its fucking salt gets shit done with. Blind rage is what you see happening in the streets with the rioting and the crazy. Focused rage is like the Roe versus Wade or Martin Luther King Jr. or any of those people that definitely had that fire, that passion, that anger. There was a major injustice that made them pissed off, but they knew that blindly just wasn't going to get anything done. You have to focus it. You have to be able to hold your rage and not let it fuck with your system, but still use its power and like Care Bear stare it out to other people. Okay. So how we can do this is by using, so if you're working with Kali Ma and Inanna and Sekhmet, those are all very fiery red Leo energies, and the way that you help turn that into the steam of movement is by adding the watery elements of Kuan Yin. Now, I talk about this all the time. Water is pretty fucking destructive too. Floods, hurricanes, like mudslides, just like the rivers and the canyons, those were all made out of water. So water has its own very powerful, rageful side of it as well. And what Kuan Yin does is helps soothe that fieriness so that you can start creating the momentum and the steam necessary, instead of, again, just having like a forest fire raging within you and you don't have any focus. You don't know why you're so angry all the time. You just are. So Kuan Yin began appearing to me, so again, Mary Magdalene, began appearing to me as well, revealing her direct teachings on how to harness the power of my anger into an all-consuming compassion that would render my enemies harmless. So using Kuan Yin, who we always think of as a very soft and compassionate goddess, we can harness that anger, and again, through the law of grace and through the law of service, render our enemies literally like, it's like anytime you've seen in like a movie where like a lion's like, or I guess I'm thinking about Aladdin, right? Aladdin, when Raja like tries to jump at Jafar and he just like points his staff and he turns Raja into like a tiny little kitten, like, that's what your rage can do to your enemies. You can literally, like, no matter what's happening on the TV, if you're choosing a different alignment, you can be writing history totally new because you're using your own powerful energy, your own rage, your own biofeedback loop, which is the way that your human body, your physical vessel, communicates with your higher self, is through the biofeedback loop of your emotions. Well, I'm always talking about how your emotions are the energy in motion that you use to write your own life. A master of energy alchemy is a master of their emotions. Okay. Your emotions don't get to control you. No one, nothing has power over you, and that includes your emotional biofeedback loop. Let's continue. Then we're going to talk about these here cards that I pulled as well. So the final thing from Mary Magdalene, and we're going to move on to a couple of things that the angels in her chapter talk about. Again, this is from the Sophia Code. It is this is how you begin. A lot of people begin their activation of their dragon light bodies through reading this codex. The Sophia Code being that part of your DNA, the crystalline DNA that's going to help upgrade you. So this is some pretty intense spiritual, this is not a book you read once. You come back to it a lot of times. Like I said, I wasn't planning on reading it this morning and ended up listening to this chapter when I was on my hike. So, when you master with Mary Magdalene as an ascended master mentor, when you mentor with Mary Magdalene, you will discover that she's also activates many divine qualities within you that are connected to advocacy, public speaking, and oracular teaching. Oracular teaching, aka being a psychic, okay? So when you hear about oracular teachings, they're talking about the oracles of the old, the seers, the ones that knew what was going on, again, because they were trained in these mystery schools, removed from regular people because of the result of the Great War between humans and dragons, where all magic was removed from the average everyday life of humans, besides, the fairies going through and making sure that the flowers bloomed and their seasons still existed and all of that. Besides that, the average everyday person has such a huge, we were talking about the governor yesterday, how we have the governor on our DNA to keep us from being too magical because of what happened during Atlantis. That was really amplified. It was really amplified during the Great War of the Dragons, where we pushed them underground. We pushed them into, and not even underground, we pushed them into different dimensions so that we couldn't see them in 3D anymore, and made all magic, all alchemy, all of that outlawed, or you could do it but in a very specific area. You're cool if you're over in Mount Carmel, but don't bring that shit over here, right? You're cool if you're just a monk on a top of a Himalayan mountain, but don't be coming into town trying to teach us your stuff. So public speaking, advocacy. So all the things that are happening right now, right? You are so angry about Black Lives Matter. You're so angry about the shit going on in Hollywood. You're so angry about the coronavirus. You're so angry about the businesses being closed, the ones that are forced to be closed, but the corporate ones are still allowed to be open. You're angry about the face mask. Whatever you're angry about, there is a way to flip that and turn it into advocacy, and a way to turn it as the fuel that will help open up your psychic channels so that you too can be an oracle for our time. We are here to be the spiritual leaders of our time. They wrote, there are prophecies written about us, guys. We're living during an apocalypse. We're living during a massive, massive time of transformation. Our entire planet is going through the goddess transformation cycle. Our entire planet is going through a dark night of the soul right now. And it's our jobs as those of us who understand even just a little bit. I know I'm an empath and I need to be able to, it's not even block other people's energies, but process their energy before the thought even hits my mind, and I just use all of that extra energy to move me forward. The reason why everyone's like, oh my God, it's you're crazy, hyped up on coffee, ADHD. I use all of the energy that you guys are just I gotta clear it, I gotta clear it, I gotta clear it. I go through on a daily basis and just okay, any neutral energy from clearings that's ready to be repurposed, just come in. I'll hold on to that, because I know that my actual body, my actual form is so giant that I can hold any level of energy, and it's not, my human form isn't the end of me. So the final thing from Mary Magdalene is, I am here to guide you on how to purify and consecrate your heart as a chalice for overflowing healing power of your own higher self's diamond light body. You are an angel on earth. That's what we are. We are all angels on earth right now. We are all here serving a divine mission. Whether you want to call it an intergalactic missionary work, or you want to say that you're a star seed, or you want to say any of these things that keep you from claiming that you're a human, it's because you're an angel. Dragons are actually the highest order of angels. They're Seraphiel angels. And that's something that people don't think about, because they think about evil Smaug in the Lord of the Rings, or they think about Puff the Magic Dragon, and they don't think about dragons being angels. They are as old as Source. Everything was birthed through a dragon. Everything. Every single thing in this universe, because dragons are the bridge from heaven to earth, from the mind of the all to the mental of the universe. That bridge is a dragon. It's why our DNA is curled up in that serpentine pattern, why you see me wearing the caduceus all the time. Serpent energy, dragon energy is the oldest, most ancient form of energy in our known universe. In any physical, unless you're with the cosmic soup in the isness of the all, you're no longer differentiated in any way as your unique form. You are tapping into the most ancient magic, which is dragon magic. Okay. So now I just have a couple of things to say about this whole biofeedback thing, and then we're going to jump into the invocation. This is super, super important, guys. This is what my entire everything is based off of. I had fibromyalgia when I was 20 years old. I did degenerative arthritis at 20 years old. My body looked like I was 70 when you look at my MRI scan. I was in so much pain because of my empathic abilities. The weight of the world was on my shoulders. The weight of my divine mission that I couldn't even tap into because my body, my physical body hurt so bad. And I was so good at playing the victim, of allowing my old stories of the abuse I dealt with in childhood, which really wasn't. It wasn't in the grand scheme of things. It's the reason why I say that abuse is subjective and trauma is subjective. Because now when I go back and look at it, I was raised the way that pretty much every child in the 90s was raised, with yelling and timeouts and spanking and grounding and that sort of stuff. And yelling. But I'm an only child. And I don't have any cousins or anything. And my friends, the few that I had, the one or two that I had, we never talked about when our dads got really, really mad, right? Like what would happen when all the friends were away and like everyone left. So it wasn't until I was older going through therapy that my therapist looked at me and she's like, honey, I don't know how to say this nicely, but you were not abused. you were raised the way that everyone was raised. But I processed it as abuse. I processed all of those spankings as being beaten. Even though I was never within an inch of my life, like it was really nothing. But my innocent nature took that as full-on attacks from the person that was supposed to keep me safe and created all these trust issues. Again, that I had to process, right? Or I wouldn't be able to tell you about them and I'd be still depressed. But when I was 20, I was still really attached to that fucking story that I was a victim, that I was constantly being victimized. My body was constantly fighting me. I had 36 G boobs by the time I was in 10th grade. I had to have a breast reduction when I was 17, suicidal from when I was 7, like because of my body issues. I had glasses and frizzy hair and super tall and wasn't the same religion as all the other kids. I wasn't even like a normal religion like Protestant or Catholic. I was Unitarian, Universalist, and pagan. I would come back from the weekend at the Renaissance Fair and at the, knowing who my totem animal was at a powwow. Like I grew up in a very earth-based spiritual. In my house, I live in Salt Lake City, Utah. I was surrounded by Mormons who were not as with it as some of the Mormons are now. A lot has changed in 20 years. So my body, I blamed my body for all of my pain and all of my pleasure. I blamed my human existence for everything, okay? Hello. Hi, thanks for sharing. So we really have to realize that our bodies are our vessel, right? So I was so victimized within my own body that I wouldn't even let the medications help me. I actually had really, really adverse reactions to all of the prescription pills, like went crazy on them. You want to talk about rage? I was literally like a different fucking person because of these medications. So I opted for cannabis instead, which is a really how I stepped into my advocacy. While I had been an advocate before for things like racial injustice and gay rights, my whole life, I remember I've marched in every gay pride parade that I can think of. Like from when I was 10 till I was 23, I marched in them. Like every year, no matter what. And now I'm like sitting there with my kids. We don't watch there, but we still show up every single year. Speaking in front of the state capitol when I was 10 years old against racial injustice because someone I knew had been wrongly arrested just for being black in the wrong place at the wrong time. But for me, cannabis was a huge, huge thing because it was the first time that I could look through my history and I could see the corruption. I could see how these 4 or 5 guys completely took this plant that had been legally used, that you could go to Walgreens and get a tincture for until 1930, along with some coke. Let's not forget that cocaine was also legal at one point, y'all. Cannabis was how I got in that door. So I was able to advocate for medical cannabis and was on, in whatever way, the team to help get medical cannabis legalized here in Utah, even though it's still kind of fucked up and the dispensary is just opened and getting your card is still a bitch. It's legal in Utah. Holy shit. That's crazy. So having the cannabis and having the natural, my endocannabinoid system got reactivated. I got to learn. I'm a super anatomy geek, so I was learning all about my endocannabinoid system. I was learning about how cannabis had been used for thousands and tens and thousands of years. I was really connecting to these roots. All of a sudden, my spirituality, my earth-based religion that of course I had fought because mom and dad were the ones who were teaching it to me, kept coming back up. And then I was able to, I birthed my second son at home with my team. So that was amazing. And then I birthed my daughter unassisted on accident. My midwife got here 15 minutes later, and that was it. All of the disbelief in my body being a holy vessel that could do fucking anything was completely removed from my body that day because I did that shit alone. I was with my husband, and that was it. My husband and my photographer was there, and the midwife got there 15 minutes later. So I had this journey through my 20s. I was 20 years old when I got diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and by my 29th birthday, I was in full-on remission to the point where my doctor was looking through my notes and was like, I have no clue how you did this. Because he would barely touch the point. They touch certain points and ask you certain questions to diagnose you. Fibromyalgia is actually diagnoses of undiagnosis. You don't have lupus, you don't have MS, you don't have this, you don't have that, but you still have all this pain and you have so yeah, you must have fibromyalgia. It's physicalized PTSD, guys. That's what it is. It's a physical manifestation of an upper limit problem. That you can't have a great life, you can't have an amazing family and money and people who care about you or any of that stuff, so you have to create this physical reason why you're a victim. That's what fibromyalgia really is. And that's why people come to me that have these autoimmune type diseases that are super rare and super weird and no one gets it, and they have a few sessions and their symptoms have dissolved away because their belief system and their emotions that are trapped in their field, that are gunking up their connection with their higher self, is now cleared out. That's using the holy rage. I was pissed off, guys. I hated my fucking life. I hated it. I was so mad. I was constantly mad. I was so angry. I was angry at my parents for letting us live with them and taking care of me. So that means that I was still constantly dependent on them. I was mad at my beautiful husband, who's literally listening across the hall right now, for even wanting to be with me. Because all these people kept trying to tell me I was worthy of something, which meant that I couldn't do what I thought I wanted, which was to go kill myself. I was super depressed and fucking suicidal 2.5 years ago, guys. 2.5 years ago. 3 years ago. Insanely depressed. Insanely suicidal. Like, if it hadn't been for the fact that I had this whole soul's mission, that I knew that I had some reason to live even though I didn't understand it, and now I do, that was all a part of my story that I had to alchemize and change, and I had to be overweight, and I had to be all these things. I had to have all those stories so that I could come and stand before you, a completely transformed person, and tell you, if I can do this, you can do this, and there's no amount of money on earth that should be stopping you. I'm not extremely proud of the amount of money that I spent having coaches and healings and all of that, but I am damn fucking grateful for it. So let's talk about the biofeedback loop, shall we? That was a bit of a soap chair, but that's my Mary Magdalene, like that's my holy rage. Anyone who tells me that they're a victim because of XYZ, I don't give a fuck. Your excuses are boring. Because I was someone who at 9 years old was told that I could write a book, 1,001 excuses to get out of everything, and I took that as a badge of honor. I used my logical mind to make sure that I had a really good fucking reason why I couldn't do anything. Your excuses are boring, and I don't fucking care what they are. If you are called on this path, get your shit together and do it. So, that's my rage. You hear it? You hear the fire? Okay. Your body, so these are the angels. These are the angels of truth and peace, transcendent truth and transcendent love and transcendent peace speaking. I'm going to read these 2 other paragraphs and then we're going to do the invocation. Your body knows that its purpose and functions are designed to tell the truth of your higher self by providing moment-by-moment intuitive biofeedback that acts as an emotional navigation system for making conscious choices within alignment. The sensations of your emotions are not trying to control your awareness. They are simply informing you of what reality your thoughts and choices are creating in every present moment. This is explaining how our emotions work. We begin to think a thought, and before the thought has even fully formed, emotions, like chemicals in our body, hormones are released that then send us back up to then have the negative thought that all of a sudden we're judging ourselves. So we think, oh, I'm kind of fat, and before the whole thought of I'm fat can actually process through and you can actually say the words out loud, your body has released stress hormones and cortisol and other things inside of you that then actually do hold weight in certain areas and other things. So you are creating, right? Napoleon Hill, thoughts are things. Naked mirror mantras, I feel sexy, I feel safe, it is safe for me to feel sexy within my body. That's why I use naked mirror mantras, because I know neuroscience, my mirror neurons in my brain, neurons that fire together, wire together, I'm getting 10 times, 20 times more effective transformation when I stand totally naked with no makeup on doing those mantras than I ever did, or any of my clients ever did, by doing those same mantras when putting on their makeup every morning, or when they were already looking fly as fuck, right? You need to do these things when you feel vulnerable and when you feel raw, because the truth of what you actually are feeling is going to come out, and then you get to navigate it. Do I want to let my body live in shadow? Do I want to let my body live in victim, live in prostitute energy, like not having my own worth? My worth exists outside of myself. Or do I want to live in that warrior energy where I'm willing to fight for everything in my life because I believe in it, and my worthy only it exists within me because I know who I am, which is a fractal of God. and I know what I am, which is God in form, and I know how I serve as singing my own song, standing here in my unique, fearless authenticity, full-on, unabashed audacity, and letting you know that I guarantee you that if you go back through Facebook and try to find a Facebook Live of me of 3 years ago, you would be, who the fuck is that person? Yes, naked mirror mantras are super healing and powerful. Okay. Your higher self mentors you in, oh my gosh. It would help if I read with the light, huh? Your higher self mentors you in the art of responding to life versus reacting to it, guiding you to act with grace and move with purpose by recognizing what information your emotional guidance system is sharing with you. Your higher self is also mentors you in how to courageously seek your happiness and fulfill your desires while exploring the vulnerable and risky landscape of the unknown. In every present moment, your higher self is waiting for you to make the free will choice and surrender to its highest power, guiding you from within, speaking through your body and heart and emotions. Many spend their entire lives resisting one single decision to trust their higher self in the unconscious battle waged against their greatest potential. So when you don't listen to your higher self, by the way, is your dragon, in case you hadn't figured that out yet, for those of you who are new to the dragon game. Others say higher self, I say motherfucking dragon. Same thing. When someone says I need to check in with myself, right? Like all you empaths, I need to check in with my emotions. I got to see if this is something that I'm really feeling or if it's something you're feeling. What you're really doing is you're choosing the voice of your higher self over the voice of your ego. Or the community, the program in the supercomputer of your body that was written by societal standards, instead of choosing your own blueprint and your own software, which is what was instilled in you the second that you were born, which is why I suggest everyone go get their fucking natal chart read really well, so you really understand what it is your huge divine mission here on Earth is. And also, when all the planets go retrograde and go crazy, you can still hold space for your clients because you're not being controlled by the planets. You know exactly how your relationship with the planets is. You know exactly what your relationship with God is. This whole mission here on Earth, guys, has nothing to do with me teaching you guys. I love you. I love teaching. This is about me and God. This is about my relationship with me and the big man, me and Sophia Christ, me and Source. And if while I'm doing that work, I can teach you to do the same, and I can be a beacon and a story of transformation, then hell to the motherfucking yes. But it's not because I need to be center stage as much as I love to be center stage. This isn't an ego-driven practice for me. Showing up live every day and giving you an hour of my time for free, obviously I'm not in it for the money. There's plenty of people out there that are like, Karen, those should be little 5-minute little fucking things. Like, they should just be little tiny blips. You shouldn't be going live every single day for an hour. Who gives a fuck? Who gives a fuck? It feels good. I love it. I love teaching you guys about the Sophia Code and about Mother Mary and about the dragons and Mary Magdalene and Nana. It's amazing. And mirror neurons and neuroscience and the amygdala and your chakra system. All good. It's all good. So the final piece here. True self, and I already said this sometimes, so I'm going to just repeat it. True self-mastery comes from honoring the relationship of many aspects of yourself working together as one. The relationship between your higher self and your awareness is that of the inner guru and the inner devotee, the inner teacher and the inner student. Your higher self is the safest teacher for your awareness and body to be opened by, mentoring you in how to make your life choices as a unified feel of well-being. That unified will, that unified field, that's when you unify your physical vessel. You allow yourself to be the chalice that receives the injections of divine inspiration. Any of this sounding familiar, you guys? I haven't read this chapter in months, and today I was literally like, oh yeah, yep, we talk about that all the time. So the Sophia Code, channeled by Kaya Ra, amazing, amazing book. Channeled, like, this isn't even a book. This is like a mini mystery school in and of itself. You mentor with 7 different Ascended Masters, as well as the Sophia Dragons in the back. So, pretty fucking epic. Yeah, yeah, Colin, no wonder my higher self is so much louder now, because you're listening to it. You're not resisting it. You're not expecting. This is how you know that you're listening to your higher self, okay? Here's the hack. You expect miracles, you don't expect disasters. So when you post a bragging post about how fucking awesome your life is, you don't expect to be judged. You expect to everyone say, hell fucking yeah, great brag, girl. If that helps. So let's talk about some dragons, shall we? So we already talked about the Hermit card and how he's all about, again, being the hermit, like being up in the mystery schools, taking that information that you've learned through the beginning, the Fool, the Magician, the Fool, the Magician, the Hierophant. What number are you? He's like number 9. So there's all the other 8. Oh, hey. Do you like how I finally, like, decided it was time to move on to the Dragon Invocation and everything cut out? Surprise. So just remember, Mary Magdalene was a hermit. So if you ever feel like I need to be out and doing things and I really shouldn't just be doing my spiritual work, it's okay. You need that me time, especially right now. So it might be that you feel like, okay, I need to, like, I want to go and teach. It takes some time to, like, process this in your system, guys. It takes linear human time to be able to get this into your system. Mary Magdalene was trained from when she was literally conceived. She was born into it. So if you are someone who woke up in 2012 or woke up in 2017 or 18 or are just waking up now, like, you're not running behind, you're not running late. There's nothing that you need to do to catch up. You're exactly where you need to be, and the more you follow the voice of your inner truth, your inner self, your inner dragon, having that mastery of your own emotions, responding, not reacting, using your holy rage, which is really turning that rage into compassion, which is being able to see, it takes mind sight, it takes being able to empathize. Having empathy is it's the greatest gift of all, but we have taken it and bastardized it into a victimization. Tons of empaths feel victimized by their gifts instead of using it as the oracular gift that it really is. To be able to know what someone else is thinking or feeling is precious and not overwhelming to a system that knows their own shit. I can hold space for some of the like I was talking about before, how I know that I wasn't really actually, like, abused or any of those things nowadays. I have had clients that holy, like, crazy trauma, like satanic ritualistic abuse, totally disowned and discarded by their parents, growing up in, like, really, really, really poor spaces, like, constantly being raped as a teenager, like, really, really, really fucking traumatic shit, y'all. And I can still hold space for it because I know that's what I'm here to do. I know who I am in my own frequency. I know who you are in your frequency, and I'm able to hold the space for you to explode and implode and do all the things necessary for you to clear the energy, to move yourself through the trauma. I am your chalice. I'm the vessel. That doesn't mean that I'm actually really doing very much. Which sounds like, well, then why would I pay you? But anyone who has to do a whole lot during coaching sessions doesn't know what the fuck they're doing, as far as I'm concerned. If you have to teach someone some step-by-step process, to you're working in an old paradigm, love. So Mary Magdalene, it's her feast day, so let's just remember that. I pulled 2 dragons and 2 other divine feminine cards for this that I'm going to go through as well. So the first one is Inanna. We've been talking a lot about Inanna the last few days. Inanna is Ishtar, she is Ostara, she is Esther, she is Aphrodite, she is Isis, she is Mary Magdalene. She is the goddess of transformation. Her story is the original Christ story, so the original resurrection story is real quick. Inanna hears the calls of her twin sister from down in the depths of hell, and she goes down the staircase to hell. Inanna's the goddess of heaven and earth. Like, she normally doesn't go down there for any fucking reason at all. She hears her sister Ereshkigal screaming in agony because her husband's just been murdered. And so Inanna goes down to the gates of hell, and on the way down is met by these different guards as she goes down, and they remove her crown. She goes a little further, they remove her rings. She goes a little further, they remove her robe. She goes a little further. Yeah, Esther. So she gets to the depths of hell, and she's totally naked by now. All of her adornments, all of her everything have been stripped away. And she goes to go console her sister, and her sister's like, "What are you doing? You don't get to be in my space without permission." Boom! And smites Inanna on the spot, hangs her on a meat hook, where Inanna hangs for 3 days and 3 nights until she is nothing but bone. And in the moment that she finally fully surrenders and is just bone hanging on the meat hook, the total stillness, she is immediately released from the meat hook, and her feet touch the ground. The second her bones touch the ground, she is reanimated. Her physical body is re-given to her. She actually joins in with Ereshkigal, because really they were split souls. They were twins of the same soul, so kind of a very Persephone-ish story as well. And then she goes back up the stairs to reclaim her title as the Queen of Heaven and Earth, and now of also Hell. So that was super fast, but it's the original story of the Dark Night of the Soul. How you come back even bigger and better than before. And maybe you've lost some things, but you've gained so much more that doesn't really matter, whatever it was that you lost. Whatever ego death, right? It's essentially the story of the very first ego death. And it's from Babylon. Like, it's way, 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 way before Jesus Christ. And yet, did you hear all those different, analogies, Jesus and the serpent and the burning bush and like all the things? Yeah, that's exactly, in the resurrection and the crucifixion. That's the original story, is the Inanna story. Inanna, again, like I said, sorry, I'm muting my stuff. She became Ashtar. So Ishtar, Ashtar, Aphrodite. So the original text of Aphrodite, she's actually the goddess of love and war. I mean, the war on Troy was started by Aphrodite, if we remember correctly, so let's not forget that. So again, that balance, the holy rage and the compassionate curiosity. When you move those energies through you evenly, you move out of wounded healer status and into, it's called Phoenix Children is what is used in the Sophia Code, so I'll continue with that. You guys know how I feel about the story of the Phoenix, because it's cyclical in nature as well. And as someone who's taken Bodhisattva vows, my whole thing is getting off of the secular wheel of samsara. But we'll just go with that. You have cleansed yourself of all the old patriarchy, essentially, all the old patterns, and are living a new frequency, a new timeline that no one could have predicted. Like, the Intergalactic Federation wants you to do one thing, and the evil people want you to do another one, and you're kind of just like, fuck you, I'm going to go this way. That is when you are in pure, solid alignment with your higher self, okay? You're not, nobody's anything persuades you in any way. You just stand there within your own solid, you don't need a pendulum. You are a pendulum. You can actually manipulate a pendulum really fucking easily. It's a lot harder to manipulate your own body movements when you use yourself as a pendulum. So, I tell you about Inanna because she says right here, the Queen of Heaven and Earth, I have nothing to hide. I see and accept all that I am. There is nothing to hide. Have I hidden anything from you guys over the last hour? No. Do I ever hide anything from you guys? No. Does my husband wish that I hid shit from you? Probably. Will I? No. Fearless authenticity. This is me. Here I am. Take me or leave me. I'm here to do some really intense, really amazing work on this planet. And if I have to do that as the hermit all by my fucking self, I will. But I know that I won't have to. That I won't. That I won't be doing it. But if I had to, I fucking would. And it wouldn't change my mission. Because my worthiness doesn't have anything to do with whether I fit in or belong to any fucking tribe. I don't need to belong to a tribe or to a society or to a community. I belong to me. So the dragon that came up with Inanna, that was upside down, that came in with Inanna, is, Jesus, Karen, what am I, trashed? Inanna was the golden dragon, Atlantean dragon. So I think this is more piggybacking on what I talked about yesterday in the fact that we have that DNA coding that is our governor that stops us from being too magical. That's what the Inanna card with the golden dragon is coming in and saying. You get to choose and have the power to remove that governor. That's still just another ego death you have to go through. Yeah, is it an old one? Is it from a past life from a really, really, really fucking long time ago? Yeah. But that doesn't make it any different. It's just like any other past life regression that you go into. It's just like any childhood regression you go into. Time is irrelevant. Well, really, time is relative to your experience of time, right? That old saying, time flies when you're having fun. And then I know every single one of you has played the game like, okay, I'm not gonna look at the clock for 5 minutes. I got 5 minutes left on my shift, but I'm not gonna look at the clock for those 5 minutes. And you're like, okay, it's been like 20 minutes. I should be able to get off work. And you look up and you're like, 3 minutes? The fuck? No. Right? We've all done that before. Hello, gorgeous. So time is relevant to your own experience. It's why so many of my clients are actually older than me, because they look back and they do. They're nosy. I don't care. I'm an open book. And they'll go back and look at posts of mine from last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, and they're like, holy fuck, I've been doing this for 15, 20, 25 years. What am I missing? What is it? And it's always, 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 because there's a part of their ego they don't want to let go of, and there's an ego death that has to happen, because only through the final shedding of the ego that is of the human shell can the dragon be born. Okay, I call myself the dragon doula for a reason. It's because a lot of you guys are walking around like with your tail sticking out and your wings are out, but you haven't like fully shed this human skin and been able to be like, yeah, I'm a fucking dragon. What you gonna do about it? So the last dragon, then we'll do an invocation, because I know you guys are like, fuck, Karen, hour and a half live stream, what the fuck? Again, who gives a fuck? Time is relevant. I love it. Could you see it on my face? I literally, like, someone get me on a TEDx stage, please, so I can learn how to do these in 11 minutes instead of... I'll be a keynote speaker. Anyone know Tony Robbins? I have the same wall hanger. Oh yeah, there's definitely like hanger. So thank you for bringing up hanger. Hanger, before we talk about Sarah, hanger is when our highest self is trying to remind us that we are still physical bodies. We still need food. Now, I don't eat. It's 11:11. I'm going to assume that means the universe wants me to wrap up real quick. The hangry thing is really just your physical body trying to remind you that it needs physical sustenance still. Like, you might not have to eat as often anymore, but you still got to eat. You still got to drink water, and you still got to sleep. Like, you have a physical vessel that still needs to be taken care of. So hanger is totally something that you have to listen to your body. You still need to listen to your body. So let's move on. Saint Sarah is most known for being the daughter of Jesus Christ and Mary Magdalene. I know I just blew your fucking mind there, but it's fine. So she is like pure unconditional love. Queen of the outsiders. I have arrived. I am where I will always be in love. So she was born essentially already in, some stories say that Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary arrived in France, and Mary Magdalene was very pregnant and gave birth in France. Others stories say that she arrived with a very young daughter with her. You know, when we were looking at these really old texts of these old stories, you have to really just go with your own discernment. So she, being the daughter of Jesus and Mary Magdalene, knew what it was like to be an outsider, because she was also being trained in these ancient mystery schools and was also being trained in the oracular priestesses way during this time where women had to hide, where women couldn't be. Like, Mary Magdalene and Mother Mary lived out their days in the caves of France. Like, Mary Magdalene was born pretty much like a courtesan princess, like tons of wealth, tons of power for her family, and lived out her days in a cave in exile. But she did it because she loved Christ, and I'm not talking about Jesus, I'm talking about Christ, the divine feminine and masculine aspects thereof, which is us. Christ is that aspect of the Creator that separated from it. We think about God and we think about Christ, and the Holy Spirit is the communication between God and Christ. That's what it is. So when you say in the name of the Father and in the Son and the Holy Spirit, you're saying in the name of God, in the name of myself, and in the name of the bridge that connects the two. I don't have any problem with any any of those traditions, because I know where they actually come from, and I'm happy to add my vibration to them instead of being offended by them. And the dragon that came with Sarah is, of course, the rose pink dragon, who we've actually already had before, but she's just perfect. Perfect card for today. I actually pulled her and the Hermit card as my daily cards for today, and then when I was doing this invocation, pulled some extras. So the rose pink dragon prepares your heart to connect with the higher facets of the cosmic heart. So the heart of Source, the heart of Sophia. Open your heart to warm-hearted love and diamond light. Connect with the love of the universe. So when Mary Magdalene talks about how she had that diamond light in her heart, the vessel, like, this is her in dragon form. And you can even, like, I know that I put it with her daughter, but that's because we are her daughters, right? We are all the sons and daughters of her. I really believe that we could, you know, if they had like legit genetic testing and not the gross stuff that Ancestry.com is doing, like, probably be able to prove that. I just, like, I need to go watch the Da Vinci Code is what I keep hearing. But, like, tell me that they don't look like the same, right? Two different artists, one is human, one is dragon, and yet you can totally see it, right? So cool. It's so cool that you can just see that they are, like, enshrouded together. Babe. So, let's do the invocation before everything breaks away again. I love you all. Thanks so much for your patience with the tech stuff. Maybe that's the reason why I need to start shortening these, is because my tech shit seems to break around an hour, and we'll set some new boundaries, and we'll see how that goes. So go ahead and take a moment and connect to your own heart. Take a deep breath in. Stand if you can. If not, just make sure your feet are flat on the ground. Just a moment giving honor on this day of the feast of Mary Magdalene, honoring her for being the partner of Jesus Christ, of taking a side step in that story, being there by his side all the time, and yet everyone remembers only Jesus's healings. As a way to keep her safe, she needed to be safe and be hidden because of the time that she was in. But we now don't need to hide. We women especially do not need to hide and be cloistered and be hidden and be afraid of being loud and audacious. Mary Magdalene learned Tantra. She learned how to be one with her sexual energy. She is one that is often called upon to help with sexual transmutation of trauma, or with the transmutation of sexual trauma. Blah. The Order of the Magdalene includes such beings as Sekhmet and Inanna and Joan of Arc. She of 1,000 angels. Mary Magdalene is here now with us, as well as the cosmic heart, helping that cosmic diamond light from Archangel Gabriel just continue to shine within our own hearts now, so we can be a beacon of highest love. Her daughter Sarah joining her as well. They had to be hermits. They had to live in these caves, continue the teachings, continue their own practices, knowing that they were going to be hidden and written out of history, and still having no judgment, still holding their divine purpose and higher love. Calling upon also Inanna, the original goddess of transformation, known by many names: Ishtar, Astarte, Esther, Ostara, Aphrodite, Isis. The goddess of heaven and hell, the goddess of love and war, the goddess of salve et coagula, to dissolve and recombine, to allow your entire ego of who you think you are now to dissolve. Because I promise that when you know who you truly are, you become an unstoppable force. You become a dragon, and no one's gonna mess with you. And you don't care even if they do, because you love them, and you can take the gift of the holy rage that Mary Magdalene teaches us and combine it with the powers of water and fire to create the steam to move forward in advocacy and oracular teaching, to be the true way showers of the dragon's path here on earth, to be an angel on earth, to take the wrathful dakinis who come in as that lightning bolt that give a swift kick up your ass from Green Tara, and know that they are still aspects of her in the mantra that I am the tree of life that crosses over and touches every star, and I am the star that is also the tree of life. True self-mastery is mastering your emotions. True self-mastery is learning how to listen to your higher self and not be resistant to its call. To do the massively terrifying thing and to radically trust that it's going to work out. To expect miracles. Because it's only when we expect miracles to happen that they occur so continuously that they become a common part of our lives. And as A Course in Miracles says, miracles are our natural state of being. It is not being in alignment with miracles, which is the weird thing, not even the weird thing, the negative thing of life. If your life isn't miraculous, you're out of alignment. Nice deep breath in again. Standing there and receiving all the information on all levels, expanding your container to take up the entire room now that you're in all directions, connecting to Gaia, connecting to Source, and receiving this invocation. honoring the Feast of Mary Magdalene on the first day of Leo season. Wilia balebekele velo botina vashitana. Oe abadave yanana. O apadele yolopo la yangala bala. Ale ala bale abale I honor all parts of me. I honor above as so below. I honor within as without. I honor that I am the philosopher's stone. I am a singing crystal. I am an angel here on earth. I am that I am. I am. Alamanate yo vole shiandare. O elevasia. We call upon the order of the Magdalene to now imbue us with our destiny. Tell us, each one of us, the next action steps. We are ready to receive. We now open ourselves to be fully activated within our oracular gifts. We open ourselves now to be fully activated in our advocacy. We open ourselves now to be fully activated within our ability to speak publicly about things that would prefer to be kept in closets. We now release the chains and bindings of the past. We release the governor from our DNA that was planted on us during the time of Atlantis. We call upon our highest potentiality, our highest power now. I know who I am. I know what I am. I know how I serve. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Alaporopotia valekava manangalia patianava. Ashiakolopotorovia lapa. Anyangala vishinigia valetea. Ombiongo vosho diavale pedea novala. In the name of the Father, and in the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen. Coming back now into your human body, any heaviness, density at all that you're feeling, pushing that down into your feet, allowing it to be transmuted by Pachamama. If you're feeling hotness in your feet, totally normal. Connecting to 12D energy on the light grid causes really hot connection in your feet chakras until you get used to it. I mean, I do this all the time and my feet still get hot sometimes depending on how powerful. Like right now, like I don't even know if I can pick a... Yeah, so you feel like these suction cups, so you just kind of pick them up, shake them out. You'll be fine. Go walk on some, go walk barefoot on the grass. That's it. I'm sorry that it took an hour and a half. I'm not sorry. I'm not sorry. We should stop apologizing. Thank you for being here. Thank you for dealing with the tech issues. Thank you for sharing it to your friends. And I will have this up on the YouTube channel tomorrow all together. So it'll be in one place. The Black Moon invocation from 2 days ago, that was also in 2 parts, we put together and it's up on the YouTube channel as well. So I'll make sure I post the YouTube channel link. If you are loving this dragon invocations, if you're just like, oh, I need me some of this personally in my own life, Bespoke Dragon Invocations are the way to do that. They are hour-long sessions live with me, and Yeah, you're welcome, Elizabeth. And we go through, find out what dragons you have in your sphere, learn your dragon names so you can connect to your higher self as dragon, receive an invocation such as this. You also receive a protocol, so it helps you really learn to get used to it. And a part of that is just done during the activation is all of your chakras, all 13 of your chakras are brought out of whatever level they're in and brought to the 10 out of 10 of highest potentiality for the completion of your divine mission here on earth. So I love you. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. Enjoy the feast of Mary Magdalene. Maybe you learned something new. Go do some more research. Allow that holy rage to be there. Just focus it. Just focus it. Okay. I love you.